Elena is respected and admired not just for her intellect and record of achievement, but also for her temperament, her openness to a broad array of viewpoints, her habit, to borrow a phrase from Justice Stevens, of understanding before disagreeing, her fair-mindedness and skill as a consensus builder.
President Obama makes history by being the only president in history to nominate 2 women to the Supreme Court. Elena Kagan is his pick.
And something tells me we're going to hear a lot of the word trailblazer in the days and weeks to come. Top Line starts right now.
Hello and welcome to our new edition, the ABC News Washington Post Top Line. Our new partners, the Washington Post, join us today. We're here every day bringing you the political headlines.
Indeed, and I'm Rick Klein, and even though we've got a new graphic, it's still the same old Twitter address. It's twitter.com/the Note. I am loving these new graphics. Change, good, right?
Change is good. Get us started, sir. What's your top line?
Meet Elena. President Obama went with the pick that everyone thought he would. Elena Kagan, the Solicitor General, is his nominee to replace John Paul Stevens on the Supreme Court. And now the battle to define her has begun. And we're beginning to see what the White House wants us to know about her, including all these firsts. First Solicitor General, first Dean of Harvard Law School, who's a woman as well. And right now, this is the critical moment where a lot of what we know about a nominee is defined. And really, the battle lines get drawn.
No doubt about it. And we know no matter who the pick was going to be, a battle would ensue, because that's the way these things go. The reaction, that's what we're getting now. Many conservatives are instantly focusing on Kagan's tenure as the Harvard Law School dean. Rick just mentioned her position there, and her reinstating a ban on military recruiters at the law center because of her opposition to the military's don't ask, don't tell policy, not allowing gay members to serve openly. This is a ban that then she once again lifted after there was some pressure from the defense secretary that Harvard would lose federal funds.
That's right. This is one of the few areas where we're seeing a concrete position, a political position taken by her. Although she's got a very long career, there haven't been many instances where she's been on the record on something controversial like this. First out, Senator Bob Bennett, the Republican of Utah, holds the distinction of being the first incumbent of 2010 to be ousted. He did not make the cut at his party's caucuses over the weekend in Utah. Not unexpected, given the toxic environment that's out there. You know, we talk about warning signs. Now we're past the signs. Now we are actually into the danger zone for incumbents. And we've got a number of close primaries coming up where other incumbents could be challenged as well. And this is just the latest signal of what Tea Party energy can mean as well.
It was a big victory for the Tea Party, but also for groups like Club for Growth, what have you, that are very pro-Wall Street, anti-TARP. That was a big part of what happened here. Bob Bennett clearly was very disenchanted, or his base was disenchanted with him. Brotherly love, not so much in Pennsylvania, but this battle between Sestak and Specter that we were hoping would be sort of a battle royale is now actually shaping up to be just that. After a pretty quiet year campaign, now we see polling showing Sestak just inching ahead of Specter within the margin of error, but just out ahead numerically. And we also see John Kerry now getting himself involved in this to try to vouch for Arlen Specter's character, because Sestak is saying, hey, Specter's trying to swiftboat me on my military career. John Kerry trying to remove the word swiftboat from American politics.
This is going to be a fun final week of this campaign, and the Kagan nomination really scrambles things even more. Arlen Specter, one of the Republicans, back when he was Republican, who voted against her confirmation as Solicitor General. That's a vote that it's an easy issue for Sestak to hit in the last week.
He's already using it as a cudgel, and he will be doing so all day long. We begin with the huge news rocking both ends of Pennsylvania Avenue. We're joined by a special guest. He is the Republican leader, the minority leader of the U.S. Senate, Mitch McConnell, Republican of Kentucky. Thank you, sir, for being here. I'd like to begin, of course, with the Kagan nomination and this criticism that we're already hearing on the right, sir, about her tenure as the dean of Harvard Law School and her reinstating that ban on military recruiters because of her opposition to the military policy of not allowing gays to serve openly. Do you think that Solicitor General Kagan is anti-military?
Look, anytime you're nominated for a lifetime appointment on the U.S. Supreme Court, you're expected to be examined. And I think the couple of things you can say about the Solicitor General here at the outset of the examination process, which will go forward in an orderly way. By the way, there needs to be an orderly process, not a rush to judgment for this important lifetime appointment, is that she's the least qualified in terms of judicial experience in 38 years. Now, some would argue that maybe we need to have people who who don't have judicial experience. I saw a survey indicating about 70% of the American people think that judicial experience is a good idea for somebody who's going to be on the Supreme Court. The second issue, the issue you raised, was her advocacy, apparently, that Harvard Law School give up federal funding rather than comply with the Solomon Amendment, which was the law of the land. I'm sure that will be examined in considerable detail before the Judiciary Committee, and it ought to be examined. I mean, her entire background obviously will be looked at and gone over in the process before the committee.
Senator, I want to ask you, obviously, when her nomination came up for Solicitor General a year ago, 7 Republicans voted for her. You were not among them, of course. But I'm curious, in your mind, does this mean that we can put aside the concerns around extraordinary circumstances? That we can say this is at least someone who doesn't present extraordinary circumstances when you consider a nomination?
Well, it's way too early to be making a decision about the issue of whether there should be a 60-vote threshold on the nominee. I've never voted for a filibuster on a Supreme Court nomination. The President, the Vice President, Senator Reid, and Senator Leahy have. But in any event, it's way too early to be thinking about that. We just heard the nomination this morning and haven't even begun the process before the committee of reviewing her qualifications.
Senator, in terms of timing, you do want a thorough examination, as you say, but is there anything that you can see right now where we would not see a vote take place before your summer August recess?
Well, I have no idea. We haven't even started the process. The President just announced her today. So I think it is way too early to be predicting when this will reach a conclusion on the Senate floor.
Do you share that goal with your Democratic colleagues, though, to get this done before the August recess?
We're going to have an orderly process before the committee, not a rush to judgment. Last year, that worked out along the lines you were talking about. We were able to go through the Sotomayor nomination in an orderly way, and we were able to complete it before the August recess last year. That was then. This is now. We'll see how it develops.
Senator, I want to turn your attention to some politics. Over the weekend, your colleague Bob Bennett, a friend and ally on a lot of matters in the Senate floor, was ousted, really by his own party, activists in his own party, denied him even access to the ballot as a Republican. What's going on in Utah and nationwide, where a senator like Bennett, a distinguished service, no scandal in his past, no one questioning his service, isn't even able to qualify for the primary?
Well, first, Utah and the nation has lost an outstanding conservative Republican senator. But I think you can say this about the state of Utah. It is the only state in America where you don't have a way to get on the ballot for the primaries unless you go through a convention process. And it was not only the Republicans who were having a spirited convention out there this weekend, the Democrats did as well. Utah's lone Democratic congressman almost didn't make it to the ballot himself because he was viewed as too Republican. So I think you have a system in Utah in which a lot of energetic, enthusiastic participants can determine, if they choose to, the nominees of the parties without a primary. So I'm not sure we ought to read too much into it. One thing I can say for sure as Republican leader of the Senate, the next senator from Utah is going to be a Republican.
That's a pretty good bet. Senator McConnell, I want to turn your attention. A week from tomorrow, there will be a primary in your home state of Kentucky. You took that rare step that most sort of senior politicians inside the state don't take. You got involved in this primary process, got behind Trey Grayson over Rand Paul. All the polls right now show Rand Paul leading in this race leading up to next Tuesday. Do you think that the seat is more at risk to fall into Democratic hands if Rand Paul emerges the nominee?
Look, we've got a unity rally scheduled for the Saturday after the Tuesday primary. We'll all be there supporting the nominee. I think there's an excellent chance Kentucky will keep this seat in Republican hands, and we're going to be there to support the winner.
Is that less of a chance if Rand Paul is the nominee?
Look, I think it's a good chance we'll hold this seat. Kentucky's in a pretty Republican frame of mind right now. We've gone back and forth. We went for Bill Clinton twice, and so we're not a dependably red state. But I think Kentucky's in a pretty Republican mood this year. They're not very happy with this administration and what it's doing, running banks, insurance companies, car companies, nationalizing the student loan business, doubling the national debt in 5, tripling it in 10, taking over our health care. You know, that's not a great message in Kentucky this year, so I think we'll be able to elect a Republican senator regardless of the outcome of the primary.
Finally, Senator, Eric Holder was on the Sunday shows yesterday, including this week, and he talked about the need to maybe some changes in the legal structure around Miranda rights and Miranda warnings. Are you satisfied, based on what you know about this case, that we got every bit of useful intelligence out of the suspected Times Square terrorist before he was read his Miranda rights?
Well, I hope so, but one thing I've learned, we've all learned a lot more about Miranda in the last few months, is it's not critical to Mirandize a suspect, whether he's a citizen or a non-citizen. I mean, if you have all the evidence you need to convict, right, there's no need to read them the Miranda rights. What we need to do is put the emphasis on interrogation and not prosecution, whether it's a citizen or a non-citizen. In one of these situations, the single most important thing we can do is to interrogate and try to learn more about who put the individual up to it, and let prosecution take care of itself down the road. Interrogation is more important than prosecution in these situations, whether it's a citizen or a non-citizen.
Senator Mitch McConnell, the Republican leader in the Senate, thanks very much for being here today. We greatly appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great guest for our first new show under
Indeed.
the partnership.